We'll go ahead and get started with Coach first. We'll start with an opening statement, then go into questions. After Coach, we'll have in here Cam Porter, Anto Saka, and Preston Stone joining. If you have a question for Coach, go ahead, raise your hand, get my attention, and I'll call on you. Coach?
Just finished up practice 7. Really excited about the progress of this team. Started all the way back in January. Proud of the way that the group, has continued to embody just kind of the, competitive spirit, the humility, the hunger to bounce back and make 2025 really special. We still got a long way to go. A lot of areas that, we're still evaluating and see where we can develop depth and figure out who's going to be, on the field for us on Saturdays. But, just from a personality standpoint, from a cohesiveness standpoint, the way that this group is gelling, there's a lot of things for us as a coaching staff and our team to be really excited about.
Coach, you've got Ore back from injury. What does it mean to have a veteran presence like him back in your DB room, and what are you seeing from that room as a whole right now?
Yeah, having Ore back is it's huge. It's huge for us as a team. It's huge for him personally. Everything that he navigated last year and the journey that he's been on to get back to where he's at today. Ultimately, a young man that's played a lot of Big Ten football at the corner position, which is no easy task. And where I've been most impressed with Ore is just his veteran leadership throughout all of this. Whether it be in the winter months of getting himself back to health, the integration of some young guys in that room, integration of Fred Davis as a transfer corner, just his leadership in that room and willingness to coach those guys as they come into the program. On top of the fact, the guy can flat out fly, and to have him back on the practice field and really have some meaningful, true depth in that room is huge.
Chris?
Coach, you mentioned this back in spring a little bit, but throughout the transfer portal process, you kind of made this team a little bit older, got a little bit more experience through 7 practices so far. How have you seen that experience come forward?
Yeah, ultimately, around the transfers, it's really easy to evaluate the skill set of guys that you're bringing in and how you're, whether it's holes in your roster or building depth or, whatever the reason. But the first thing that, I'll acknowledge is our staff and everyone involved in that process hit a home run in terms of character evaluation. They're just that entire group has done a great job of buying into what Northwestern's all about, what this team's all about. Our leadership on the team has done a great job of bringing those guys in and showing them the way and helping those guys integrate into the team. I just feel like we have a really mature football team right now. We are challenging them in ways, whether it be the offseason, whether it be spring ball and the way that we practice, the way that we're practicing and the way that we're challenging them right now in fall camp. We're challenging them in ways that we've never challenged them before, and they just continue to respond. And I think that's a reflection of the maturity and leadership. A lot of that leadership was already on the roster, but some of those vet guys that have come in from other schools that are embracing that and helping lead that charge has been huge.
Coach, with your top 3 running backs returning, do you know how you're planning on splitting the snaps between those guys? Is it going to be similar to last year or not?
Yeah, I ultimately think that will be one of Zach's biggest challenges. But that is a good problem to have. But ultimately, we got to find roles for Cam, Caleb, and Joe. And there's some other guys in that room that are starting to push and develop as well. But the 3 of those guys are 3 of our best football players, and finding ways to make sure that all 3 are having a huge impact on the game, and finding ways to, whether it be through rotation or having multiple guys on the field at one time, will be a huge part of week-to-week game plan.
As you've worked with Preston Stone more, what's impressed you about his skill set and just the way he operates?
Yeah, in terms of skill set, he processes at an extremely high level. His knowledge of the game, sitting in quarterback meetings or even having conversations in a team meeting format, and the dialogue back and forth, player to coach, is really impressive. his deep ball accuracy has certainly stood out. And then also on the move as plays extend, sound decision-making while being accurate with the football. From a skill set standpoint, really stand out. Just as important, if not more important, he's blown me away with his ability to build relationships very quickly. Got voted on by the Leadership Council within the first 3 weeks of being here to join that group. Truly believe that he's a guy not only from an offensive perspective, but our entire team believes in that guy and wants to battle for that guy. And a common thread of the winning quarterbacks that I've been around throughout my career, very diverse skill sets in terms of what the things that they do well, but the common thread in all those guys, whether it be getting a chance to watch Easton Stick or Trey Lance at North Dakota State or Cam Miller, Ben back in 2023. There was just a certain feeling within the team that the guys wanted to battle for that guy and have his back. And I think Preston has really done a great job of establishing that since he's been here.
Go ahead, Matt.
Coach, you're now in your third year here. Obviously, when you first came in, we're a bit thrown into it and just kind of had to learn on the fly, head coaching a bit here. But how do you feel like you've grown into this role now as you head into your third year coaching?
Yeah, it's required a lot of self-evaluation. Ultimately, coming off a 4-8 season, perspective is powerful. Is this happening to you or is it happening for you? And I truly believe as a program, we did a good job of saying this is happening for us. You can't spray perfume on a 4-8 season. It just stinks. And we've all had to evaluate, but ultimately, everything that does or does not happen within this program ultimately comes back to me. I think I've done a much better job of really establishing clear lines of communication in terms of how we operate in all areas of the program, setting a very clear standard of expectations, whether it be for players, staff, recruiting, all areas of the program. And ultimately, I just told our team as we get off the field, my natural personality is to motivate and lift up and pat people on the back and tell them they're doing a great job. But if that's not the truth, that's not serving our team well. I think I've done a much better job of holding the entire program accountable to, if we want to talk about, winning Big Ten championships, if we want to talk about playing in the CFP, we have to evaluate daily if the way that we're operating aligns with that. And when it doesn't, there needs to be accountability.
I'm just going to ask you, is that more challenging with the way everything's changing in the landscape?
Yeah. Not to, peer directly into our staff meetings, but if our staff was sitting in here right now, they'd chuckle. The amount of times that I've said in chaos there is opportunity to our staff. The landscape has been absolutely chaotic, but there's so many opportunities, and especially at a place like Northwestern. There's so many things that make this place unique, and are things that we can really make our own going into this new landscape. So it's a work in progress, but I'm really, really excited about the progress.
Go Louie, then Brendan.
Hey, Coach.
Hey, Louie.
How is Jack Bailey's health? Is he back to 100%? And, we know Caleb Tiernan is going to be at left tackle, but who else right now is running with the ones right now?
Yeah, Jack looks great. And gosh, that guy's had a roller coaster since he's arrived, but looks great. He's bigger, he's stronger, he's moving well. Really excited about Jack. The fun part about this team right now, specifically in the O-line room, is, it is a open competition. Caleb Tiernan will be our starting left tackle. Jackson Carcello's played a ton of football for us at the center position. But, that starting five, every practice and even throughout practice is constantly changing. There's truly competitive depth in that room, which ultimately I think is resulting in the level of that O-line play being still a lot of work to do. But, when you can walk off the practice field and start to feel like you have 8 guys that can play a full game in the Big Ten and play winning Big Ten football, and then you start to ask yourself, can we get that number to 9? This guy's coming along. Can we get that number to 10? That has to be the standard. I've said this before, but the true competition, there are plenty of guys in that room right now that have no clue whether or not they'll they'll be the first one running out there against Tulane, and competition is good for everybody.
Brendan?
Hey, Coach, you talked about how this team has responded to every challenge you guys as a coaching staff have given them. And the opening game, obviously a pretty big challenge on the road against a Tulane team, receiving votes in the coaches poll. How important is it for you guys as a coaching staff to get that test in game one and figure out where you are relative to teams like that are competing for potentially conference championships and spots in the CFP?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great challenge for us in week one. I mean, John does an outstanding job. That team will look very different than it did last year, but they've done a great job of replenishing that roster. Having an opportunity for this team to go on the road will be a great challenge. And ultimately, the thing that we've, as a staff and as a program, when we reported, I believe on July 29th, was we're going to focus on ourselves. There will be time to prepare for Tulane, but ultimately, these first 2.5 weeks of camp, I mean, we've solely been focused on making sure that we are preparing our team for the gauntlet that awaits. And the first challenge is certainly a big one, but one that this team, as we shift to Tulane prep, we'll be looking forward to that challenge.
Coach, I know you talked about this a little bit, Big Ten Media Days too, but when you talk about opportunity and chaos, Preston Stone a guy that I feel like is here because of a lot of the new shifting landscape in college football. And so to have him since May, what have you seen him do for this program? But also, what's been the challenge of kind of creating these opportunities that have to exist now if you want to stay competitive in Power 5, Power 4?
Yeah, I think we had this conversation at one point postseason, but ultimately, college football has flipped on its head. And for us to think that we can operate, in a similar fashion to the way that we have over the last 3 years, last 10 years, last 20, we'd be kidding ourselves. But the addition of Preston Stone has been amazing. Ultimately having someone that is working alongside his staff and working with our administration and is looking, through a lens of how we manage this revenue share cap. What is the fallout of the settlement in terms of how things will actually be operationalized, evaluating our current roster, evaluating our high school recruiting, evaluating, how we approach transfer recruiting, and also being just an incredible asset to the young men on our team that do have NFL futures. I mean, you're talking about a guy with extensive NFL scouting experience in a smaller organization operationally at Cincinnati where he was very involved. The resource and the honesty that he's been able to provide for our guys, it's been so great to get him on board. And also, I think, him being on board allows me to be very involved in how we're operating in that space, but ultimately trusting that he's the one that's thinking about that 24/7 and allowing me to focus on our team and what we need to do this season to win a bunch of games.
Coach, can you describe what Aristotle Thompson has brought to the running back room and what might separate him from other running back coaches?
Yeah, a lot of energy, a lot of detail, in the way that he approaches his work, whether that be in coaching the running backs, talking broad scheme, helping out on special teams, recruiting. Super demanding, while also complementing that with someone. I mean, the whole Thompson family, is out at almost every practice. I mean, the way that Coach Thompson and his entire family support that room and that our team, there's this perfect balance of demanding and challenging those guys to be at their best while loving his guys and doing it the right way. Chris Foss, I mean, when Chris made a decision to leave for Duke and we supported Chris in that decision, Chris is a really good coach that was beloved by this team in that room. And I told the running backs, I was like, the challenge I'm going to put myself to is bringing a coach that, Chris has set the bar really, really high, but can we find someone that can maybe even do it a little bit better? And, from the feedback from the running back rooms and my observations, Coach Thompson is delivering on that, which is high praise considering the light that I hold Chris Foster in.
Couple more, Jake, then Lee.
Coach, a few years back, Anto really started to flash as a passing down specialist. Now he's been able to progress to the level where he could be an impact player on all 3 downs. I mean, how would you just assess the growth that you've seen out of him this offseason? What are your expectations for him coming into this year?
Yeah, I think the expectations Anto has for himself is to be one of the best defensive ends in the country, and I would say the same. And I would say the way that he has worked and operated and been willing to take constructive criticism and respond to that aligns with someone that's primed to have that type of season. He's put on weight. He's gotten stronger. He's still moving just as well as he was prior to putting on that weight. His leadership, his involvement on the leadership council, just to give you a tangible example of like the way that he views this program, when our first years reported in mid-June, they were working out in the afternoons initially just to get integrated. And without anyone encouraging him to do so, I'm walking through the weight room that afternoon and Anto Saka's in there, spending time with those young guys and the strength staff, just showing them the ropes. He didn't have to do that, but he's at the facility constantly. He knows that he needed to make progress in his first down and second down play, of consistently playing the run in the Big Ten. We've seen that show up in practice in spring and the fall. Really, really excited for him and the rest of that D-line. They're going to have to, be extremely disruptive for us to play the brand of defense that we expect to this season.
Hey, Coach, another new guy you got on the staff is Ryan Olson. So what are his responsibilities as the run game coordinator, and how do him and Bill O'Boyle work together?
They work together really, really well. Like, ultimately, and again, a lot of this comes back to just, as we evaluated everything within the program, I told our staff, including myself, like we were going to have to check our egos at the door. We were going to have to put self-interest aside. We were going to have to understand every decision that we were making was what was in the long-term best interest of the program. But the decision was, I felt convicted that we wanted to go to more of an NFL model in terms of the way that we coached that room. Old model O-line coach and then a GA that's helping, but that's a younger guy that's trying to figure out in the profession the demands of scouting and recruiting, the demands of developing a room. Bill O'Boyle is our offensive line coach. Bill O'Boyle is our expert in fundamentals, technique, and film review. He's reviewing the film with the guys. Ryan's in the room with them. But where Ryan brings a ton of value is our run game specialist is just, scheme X's and O's, angles, leverages, trade shift motions that we can utilize to create advantaged box structure for run game. And then utilizing Ryan, in those months of January, of April and May when we're out on the road, to have Ryan go out and scout and be on the road while it allows Bill to be in the building as the offensive line coach and continue to spend just critical time with our offensive line's development. And there, again, it operates this way at a lot of colleges now, a lot of universities, at this level, and it's operated that way in the NFL for a long time. But it was new here to Northwestern, and Ryan and Bill's willingness to just check their ego and get to work, I've been really impressed with.
Last one, Brendan.
Coach, you talked about the competitive depth in the offensive line room, and that's also the case in the receiver room. Obviously, the addition of Griffin Wild in the transfer portal was a big one, but who else, if anyone, has been standing out to you so far through the first couple of practices?
Yeah, Griffin has impressed. Really excited about Frank Covey. Ricky Amarazi coming off an injury. It's looking really good. Chase Farrell. Drew Wagner. Hayden Elegant, young guy that's got a ton of potential. I'm probably forgetting someone here, but like ultimately what that wide receiver room, understands is I'm excited about that room, but we are unproven. The returning production is what it is. Like, there's no denying that. Griff was extremely productive at the FCS level, but is unproven in the Big Ten and at this level. And the thing I love about that group is, like, they know that and they wear that and they play with the chip on their shoulder and they go compete. The continuity that's starting to build between specifically Preston Stone, Ryan Bowe, and that wide receiver room right now is really exciting to see.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
All right, we'll we'll go ahead and go right into questions for Cam and Anto. Make sure you direct your question if it's directed toward a specific one of them, and raise your hand to get my attention. Sid?
And so Coach was just talking about how in the offseason you really focused on gaining weight. I think it was 15 pounds that you added. Why was this a focus for you, and how have you seen it just pay off already on the field?
I know if I want to help this team this year, I got to be available to them on every down, first, second, and third. Gaining some weight out there helped me just be a more strong at the point of attack, be a better run defender, just ultimately stay healthier. So my health has been the best it's been since being here. With these few extra pounds, still feel explosive, so I'm ready to help the guys this year.
Anto, with you being one of the returning veterans on that D-line, how are you starting to take accountability as one of the leaders in this defense?
The main thing that I wanted to work on this year was just being a vocal leader. Throughout my time here, I've been more of a guy to do it by example, but as you get older, you learn that sometimes a voice needs to be heard. You need to be a guiding light and voice for the young guys in the room or just the guys in the room in general, so just being more vocal.
Charlie?
Cam, what went into your decision to return to Northwestern for your 6th collegiate season?
Yeah, it was a lot that went into my decision to come back. Ultimately, the main reason was obviously had a bad taste in my mouth from last season. That's not the way that I wanted to go out, and that's why I'm excited to come back this year. I feel like we got all the pieces that we need to have a successful season. Locker room is full of great guys, and things are starting to come together real good. So that was ultimately the main reason for me to come back, and I'm excited to get it going for this last one.
Cam, obviously you've seen a lot of college football across your time at Northwestern, but the offseason, Coach Braun and staff brought in a lot of transfer guys, a lot of experience to kind of go with what you already have in this locker room. How have you seen the experience transfers kind of mesh with what's already in place here?
Yeah, it's felt like they've been here for years, and that's kudos to the coaching staff for bringing good guys in that fit really well into our culture. Coach Braun is big on that, finding guys that ultimately are going to help us win football games, but at the end of the day can come in and gel well with the guys, and that's exactly what's happened. These guys only known them for, 6 to 8 months, but, I felt like I've known them for a lifetime, man. So kudos to, Coach Braun and his staff for, bringing good guys in that fit well.
Anto, there's a lot of returners on this defensive line that showed a lot of talent last year, whether it's you, Carmine Bastone, Aiden Hubbard. How helpful is it to have guys not only with that much talent, but that much experience and cohesiveness playing together back for another year?
It means the world. Obviously, when you have talented guys like them coming back and you don't have to rebuild on the foundation that you've already laid down, the sky's only the limit for this group. They're dogs. They've been hungry all off season. Like Cam said, we all have a bad taste in our mouth. So just knowing that I got a bunch of guys like that, of that caliber, who are ready to lay it out for this team, it means the world.
Cam, you talked about that bad taste in your mouth after, that's the reason you want to come back. How much is that a motivating factor, you think, not just for you, but for this whole team as you head into this season coming off what was obviously a very disappointing 2024 season?
100%. I mean, we all know that the results of last season didn't reflect the work that we put in, the time that we took, and we all know that. We know that we didn't meet the standard, and that was something that played in the back of our minds every day we woke up at 6 a.m., this off season. It played in the back of our heads. We were reminded. We know that we're better than that. We know that we put enough work in, to get better results. And that's what we're really excited to show this year. We're ready for all our hard work, dedication, and time we put in to pay off.
Anto, Coach was saying that you had very lofty expectations for yourself personally this season. Just what are your goals?
My personal success really comes second to success of the team. Like, obviously, I want to be one of the best players in the Big Ten. I want to be one of the best players in the nation. But ultimately, I want to be one of the best players for this team and take them as far as we can go. We have a lot of lofty goals. Not even goals, we have objectives, and we're trying to check them off. And whatever I can do to help them achieve those objectives, get them checked off, I'm going to do. So.
Cam, this is kind of a two-parter, but what were some of your biggest focuses on improving this offseason, and how would you assess just the strength of the running back room as a whole right now?
Yeah, going off of that that first question. Obviously, I'm a little bit older. You know, I've played a lot of football. My body's, you know, it's taken some hits over the years. So I think that was really big. I got with the strength staff and finding ways to make sure that I'm getting stronger, I'm getting better, and I'm making sure that I'm staying as healthy as possible, you know, whether that's mobility, so I can, you know, be available at all times. And going off of that second question, man, I think we got one of the best rooms in the Big Ten, hands down. We got a lot of guys that are competing at high level. Obviously with Joe and Caleb, they've played some ball, they've seen some things, and we got, you know, younger guys starting to step up as well. And Coach Thompson has really, you know, taking us to a whole nother level in terms of just our overall knowledge of the game, how we attack each day, how we attack the process, man. And it's been really good, and I'm excited for what we got coming this season.
Kind of just going off the field, Cam, obviously being a returning captain, what ways have you reflected on your leadership last year and trying to grow it this season?
Yeah, you know, obviously nothing is a finished product. I'm always trying to find ways to better myself, not only as, you know, a football player, but as a person in general. I think a big thing is just continuing to build relationships. You know, we got a lot of new guys coming in, not only transfers, but also freshmen. So I think building those relationships with younger guys, also transfers, is huge as a leader, you know. If you want guys to look at you as a leader, you know what I mean, you got to know them, you got to understand them. And that's one of the biggest things with leadership, is forming genuine relationships.
And so when you think about just all the work that Ore put into his rehab process throughout last year, what does it mean to this defense to have him back, both as an on-field presence, but also
Yeah, Ori means a lot to his team. He's got our hearts. Having him back from such a rough injury, it means the world. And just having another guy that upholds the standard, another guy that's going to go out there and put in his work day in and day out, it means the world. And Ori's really taking a step up in his leadership as well, just being the vet in that corner room, making sure he's bringing all the guys in that room along with him. So we're all progressing at a fast rate. So having Ori back, it means the world.
Anto, I don't know if you saw this, but The Athletic put together this list called Freaks, where it kind of honors all the people that, or players that are showing off in different, athletically in different ways. You made that list. I was kind of wondering what your thoughts on are kind of being honored in a different way, as opposed to a lot of different, you know, preseason watch lists and that kind of stuff for the work you put in.
Yeah, I mean, I saw it. It's cool. I appreciate that, but you know, it's a lot of work to be done. So I'm glad that people can see that I can do what I'm here to do, but my mind's not really on that. My mind's really more so just helping this team win in whatever way possible, but it was cool, though.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Same thing, we'll go right into questions for Preston. If you have a question, go ahead, raise your hand, get my attention.
Preston, you've seen the ingredients and the formula necessary for winning football throughout your time at SMU. What, if any, of those elements are present here that excite you about this coming season?
I think more so than anything that makes us special is the player leadership that we have. You know, Coach Braun has a saying that good teams are coach-led and great teams are player-led. And something we do a great job of is holding each other accountable to the standard from within the locker room. That's something we do really well, and I think that separates us from a lot of teams.
Preston, you're working with what is a largely unproven receiver group. Even Coach Braun said it. How much confidence still do you have in that group?
I have a ton of confidence in those guys. I think we have one of the best receiving rooms in the country. A lot of those guys have a chip on their shoulder, whether it be, you know, stepping up to the plate to fill up some pretty big shoes with Bryce and AJ from last year. You know, guys like Ricky coming off an injury. So those guys are very hungry and ready to prove themselves. And I've really enjoyed having that quarterback-receiver relationship with them. There's been a ton of open feedback in the 8 months that I've been here so far, whether it's, you know, something I need to do with getting the ball out quicker, or, you know, my feedback to them, you know, I need to get their head around. Here's what I'm thinking with my progression. So there's been a lot of good communication, understanding both ways, and I'm really excited to see how those guys play this year.
Preston, you talked about holding each other accountable. I'm kind of wondering how you do that exactly. And then my other question was, as a new guy coming in as a transfer, how do you establish yourself as a leader kind of that quickly?
I think the biggest thing on that point is the off-the-field relationships. And that's something I've really enjoyed about living in the city of Evanston is there's a ton to do out here. You know, half the days out of the week we'll finish a workout and go straight to the beach and get to have a great time. So biggest thing with that is having great relationships, establishing that first. So that opens the door to where, you know, if I have to get into a guy a little bit or vice versa, they know that it's coming from a good place.
Preston, I know this summer is kind of sped up a little bit. Obviously, Jack departs the team. You're starting quarterback. And how was that kind of for you? How did that evolve this summer? And what was that like, kind of earning that role, quarterback one, and kind of taking it the way that you have now and kind of settling into it?
Yeah, I feel very excited about the role that I'll get to have on this team. You know, Lausch coming in here, Lausch was one of my favorite guys in the locker room, and I know he's going to kill it. He's going to kill it playing baseball for the rest of his career. But you know, kind of since day one, I've had the mentality of, you know, I'm going to do what it takes to get on the field, and you know that starts in the locker room and in the weight room and in winter workouts. So whether it was a public announcement or not, like I've always had the mentality of, you know, put the blinders on and I'm going to do what I need to do to prove myself.
Yeah, you know, as you mentioned, got the starting job after spring practice. You also, back in high school, you got the starting job as just a freshman. How did you use that experience coming in, you know, not necessarily having the full off season, but still earning that trust and earning that starting role from your teammates early on?
Could you ask it one more time? Sorry.
Yeah, so, you know, you took over the starting job after only spring practice, so you didn't have the full off season necessarily, not all the winter workouts. And in high school, you also took over the starting job as a freshman, despite, you know, not being with the team the year before. How do you think that experience helped you coming here, you know, joining a new team kind of in the middle of the off season and still being able to build that trust and build those relationships?
Gotcha. You know, I think coming from a place of, biggest thing was coming from a place of earned confidence. You know, it can be, there's potential to step on the field and tell yourself you're confident without actually having put the work in. And so, you know, biggest thing for me was just establishing my work ethic for the sake of myself and earning that confidence for myself, but also to establish that relationship with my teammates to know that they've seen the kind of work that I put in, and you know, so they can feel confident in me stepping on the field as well.
When you look back over the last year for yourself personally, just how have you kind of managed or navigated the ups and downs that you've experienced?
Big thing for me has been, you know, leaning on the people who I love in my life. You know, my family, close friends, people who are close to me. And you know, there's been some ups and downs, but obviously I wanted to play last year and keep playing, keep that starting role. But there's a silver lining in everything, and you know, my experience last year allowed me to have the opportunity to come to Evanston and play for a great coach with Coach Braun and a great locker room. And so, you know, ups and downs, I'm just incredibly blessed to be where I am now.
You talk about those experiences, which it's never easy not playing every single game, but what are some of the lessons you feel like you learned within the game that now you're an even better player because of it?
Yeah, you know, I think with my role last year, you know, I got to truly understand and feel the role of kind of trying to be a servant leader. And obviously, you put in all of the work in the off season, and even going back to when you're a little kid, like you dream of being the guy out there on Saturdays. And then when that opportunity is taken away from you, it can hurt from a personal standpoint, but those guys on the field are still the same guys that you've been putting work in this whole off season with. And so I feel like that experience it was humbling for sure. And it also gave me just so much more of an appreciation for the opportunity that I'll get to have this year.
When you're going up against the first team defense, what's it like facing Anto Saka pass rush?
Yeah, he's pretty scary. Thankfully, in practice, Coach Braun has a pretty early whistle. But whether if he's on the man side of our protection with a one-on-one, usually you kind of got to get the ball out pretty quick because Anto's a really special player. So I'm really excited to see what he does this year.
Preston, you talked about coming to Evanston, how it's a great place to be because you can go to the beach after practice. This is the first training camp in your football career that's outside of the Dallas area. How have you been adjusting to that?
Well, I'll say, August in Evanston is much better than August in Texas. Going out to practice with 75 degrees, you got a whole lake right beside your practice field. It doesn't get any better. It's been great living up here so far. When I first got here, just to speak on like the kind of guys we have in the locker room. Like, first got here, first week, I was looking for a date spot to take my girlfriend to dinner, and I had 10 guys give me different dinner recommendations. So it's been an unbelievable experience so far. I can't wait for the season.
Charlie, how do you feel you fit into Coach Zach Lujan's scheme and system?
This has been one of the most fun offenses I've ever gotten to play in, largely because of how much Coach Lujan puts on my plate in a good way. I love the feeling of being able to get in a huddle and look guys in the eyes. That command aspect of playing quarterback, I feel like plays really well into how I want to lead and the kind of quarterback I want to be. And we have a ton of dynamic players on offense to where, we can hurt guys in the perimeter with the receivers. We have tight ends who can do some great stuff in the box and also get out in some pass routes. Huge strength of our offense is our running back room. Hand the ball off to Joe, hand the ball off to Cam Porter. Any of those guys that opens up a lot of opportunities in the passing game.
Preston, of course, you got to go through spring practice with this group. Who are some of the guys that you've seen take the biggest leap from that point to now heading into fall camp?
I think the O-line as a whole has done an incredible job so far. I think we are incredibly deep in that room. There's really not much of a drop off at all from that one O-line to the two O-line. So I've been super proud of those guys. I've loved throwing to Griffin. Griffin's been awesome. Carson Grove has really made some plays this camp. It's been great to watch him. And then our two outside guys who can really make plays, Ricky and Frank. You talk about guys who have a chip on their shoulder and want to play as hard as they can for their teammates. It's those guys. So they've been really fun to play with as well.
I think you've probably spoken about this before, but just what made Northwestern the place you want to be this season?
I think it was a bit of a crazy experience in the transfer portal because it was such a short window. Was still getting ready to play Penn State. I had my finals coming up, and I had about a week and a half to find out where I'm going to be playing for the 25 season. And so I got to talk to a few schools, but when I talked with Coach Braun, there was just a level of sincerity and belief in myself that I felt like was different. So getting the opportunity to meet with him and see how good of a leader and how good of a coach he was, that played a huge part in it. And just kind of like I was speaking on earlier, getting to sit down with Coach Lujan for a couple of hours and see how he gives the quarterback the keys to the car, it's a very empowering position in his offense and the way he does things, and I feel like those two things were a huge differentiator.
Yeah, Matt. What gives you the confidence that you can lead this team to a successful season on the field after they're coming off what was obviously a disappointing 2024 season?
I mean, from everything I've seen since I've been here in January, Northwestern's 2024 record doesn't reflect what I've seen at all. I think we play very complementary football in that, we can run the ball down people's throats and take shots over the top. And if for whatever reason the offense isn't clicking, our defense will always have our back. They play very sound football. I'll say since I've been in college, going against our defense, whether it be a game or my practices at SMU, has been some of the hardest looks I've ever seen. And so we've got the talent, we've got the culture, but more than anything, I feel like our player leadership and the standard that we hold each other to is what's going to take us the distance.
Last one, Brendan.
Yeah, you talked about the transfer portal being in the middle of that playoff run at Penn State, obviously a Big Ten team. What did you learn from that playoff run, both in the game itself and in the lead up to it, about what it's going to take for this team to succeed this year?
Yeah, I think at SMU we had a great year last year, and we definitely felt well equipped to go and make a run in the playoffs. That being said, there was definitely a difference when we played Penn State compared to the other teams we played the whole year. Big Ten football simply is just different, and I think getting to feel that environment is awesome, and I can't wait for the Cats to go to Penn State and play them this year. We're just going to keep rolling, and regardless of the environment, regardless of whatever the stakes of the game may be, week 1, week 2, Big Ten championship, we'll be good to go.
Awesome. Thanks, Preston.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.